Welcome to yet another insightful episode of Let's Share. I'm Molly Dasobri. Today we'll be answering a lot of questions on the young mind. What are those barriers that we face, and who do we go to when we face these barriers? With me to answer these questions is Madam Dora Kularba, the Upper East Regional Adolescent Focal Person and a public health nurse. She would give us real-life stories on how she faced these situations and how she intervened. Madam Dora, welcome to our studio.
Thank you, Molly.
You look beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Well, just like us to dive right in to the reality on the ground. What are those common barriers that these adolescents face out there when it comes to accessing sexual reproductive health services?
Thank you very much, Molly. I think working with adolescents is also a very interesting one. And I think in the Upper East region, the barriers encountered by adolescents seeking sexual and reproductive health include some cultural and religious beliefs that hinders or prevents them from seeking adolescents and youth-friendly health services with regards to sexual and reproductive health. Also, when you come to our educational system, both formal and informal, with regards to the informal, I mean the churches where we have the Sunday school and in the Arabic schools where we have the Makaranta, it's realized that education on sexual and reproductive health is missing. This is because of some policies that prevents their teaching in school or in class. Also, gender discrimination, in that the female or the girl child is tagged whenever they go to seek for sexual and reproductive health services. They are tagged as, in quotes, those spoiled ones. And talking about gender, when it comes to Upper East, anytime there's a discussion on sexual and reproductive health services, the male character or the boy child is missing. So most of our platforms, you see only the girls coming to access services as compared to the males who are not always available.
So you mentioned platforms. So what are those platforms that the adolescents can access these sexual reproductive health services?
Okay. With platforms, I mean when you come to the Ghana Health Services for services with regards to adolescent health, we have the standalone, which talks about the adolescent corners, where they can come in for sexual and reproductive health services. And we also have the mainstream, where they come through the OPD, but it's the duty of the service providers to be able to identify them and give them the services that they are needing. And also that of the outreaches, where we move out to meet them in their clubs and in their youth empowerment houses, where we are able to give them education on sexual and reproductive health services. So virtually with the Ghana Health Services, wherever you find yourself as a facility in giving services, you can adopt any of these three so that you can be able to give the services.
Okay. So how does the adolescent or a young person navigate their way around to ensure that they get the needed services?
With that, I think the issue of peer education, where some adolescents are selected and they are empowered on issues on sexual and reproductive health services. If an adolescent avails himself or herself, or we identify those that are vocal and have the charisma to be able to meet their colleagues in the communities, then give them this empowerment. They are able to give this information to their colleagues. In this case, they become like a
focal person.
Yes,
advocate.
and also like a barrier between, or a point of communication between the service provider or the health facility and then the colleagues as adolescents. You will agree with me that most of the times if adolescent wants information, they would contact their colleagues. Their friends are the first point of contact. So if we empower these adolescents with the right information, then they are able to share this right information with their colleagues. And those who have issues can always also go back to the adolescent to reach to the health provider. Then we can also put them in this mentorship session, which SHRH is doing in the Upper East as at now, where they go through series of education. Some particular adolescents have been taken through and they go through all these series of education on sexual and reproductive health for a particular period in a month or in a week. Then they can also always avail themselves for empowerment as advocates on these youth advocate platforms so that they can also reach out to their colleagues too. They can also always seek information on our virtual platforms. I know social media has come and a lot is out there, but we still have some of these platforms that have information on sexual and reproductive health that can impact on our adolescents. And then they can always get the right information for informed decision making.
Okay, so how are these adolescent mentors picked? Is there any adolescent or young person in the community with the interest can join, or you single-handedly pick them out?
The adolescents in the community are first put into clubs.
Okay.
You will agree with me that it's not everybody that have the skill to be able to talk to their colleagues. And some of these skills is even picked from infancy. There are some children, to identify them in their communities, they don't go to people's houses to play. It's rather children from people's houses who come to them. From the start, you're able to identify that such children are born to have some skills in leading. So with the adolescent clubs, you are able to get them together, they interact, they share information on sexual and reproductive health services, including general knowledge. Then within the club, you are able to identify those that if you give them a little push and give them the knowledge that is needed, then they are selected as mentors. Of course, with their interests. Some will be like that, but when you call them in, they start becoming shy. That is not to say we leave them out. We still give them the opportunity until they are willing. Those who are willing will come to say, I would want to be a mentor. So we select them that way, with the help of the community members.
That is interesting to note. And so with all your interaction with these adolescents and young people, can you give us a success story where these barriers were overcome?
One of such success stories is with the Bongo district. Some years back, if we talk about adolescent pregnancies, is the Bongo district that topped the whole country, such that when it comes to BEC, you see the numbers there, they are pregnant and they couldn't write. But engaging community members, gatekeepers, queen mothers, and then the chiefs, some of the queen mothers have even formed their own adolescent groups where they are meeting them, they are forming a group, and they are able to lead them in a club with the out of school, those who are into hairdressing, tailoring, and the rest. Some queen mothers have taken it up and they meet them frequently, once in a week or once in a month. Sometimes when the topic is about SRH and she doesn't have the expertise, they call into the nearest health facility and inform them to come and give them the services. So as it stands now, when you look at the adolescent pregnancies or teenage pregnancies of the region, Bongo is the best when it comes.
Wow.
Their performance has moved from 20+% of pregnancies among adolescents to as low as 11.1, 10.5 as we speak.
That is a plus.
Yes.
That's a plus for Bongo. So as a public health nurse, what is your role in the community in assisting these adolescents and young people to access sexual reproductive health services?
Thank you. As my title goes, I've always been an advocate for adolescents and young people in the region. And anytime discussions regarding them comes up, I'm always there to give my learning support. And so I think that much of what we do is advocacy for the support for these adolescents. Also, we give education to these adolescents, information, and we also make our facilities friendly, where any adolescent at all who wants to ask questions about himself or herself is able to walk into the facility freely to get information. We also give vital services such as counseling, contraceptive provision, STIs management, and then other general issues that adolescents do not understand. For instance, an adolescent may not understand why I am born with you the same time. Maybe my features are different. Maybe I have big boobs or she has small boobs. And so it's as simple as that, and an adolescent can be convinced to think otherwise. And so we have opened our doors and they come in anytime at all. But most importantly, these services must be provided on confidentiality basis and making them comfortable, assuring them that as they've come there, you will not discuss whatever you've discussed with them with any other person unless it is life-threatening or necessary. And even with that, you seek their consent before you are able to engage the third party.
So, Madam Dora, what are the roles of healthcare workers to support young people or adolescents and able for them to access sexual reproductive health services?
That's good. The roles of health workers in the health facilities is to be friendly towards them as an individual. They should be able to understand that with adolescents, it is a period that you need information to be able to build up or to be able to take care of yourself. So they provide education, they provide counseling sessions, they also provide contraceptives to the adolescents, and they also advocate in the community for these adolescents with stakeholders such as chiefs and elders and parents, where they are able to meet the adolescent and identify special needs that they need to get to the parents. They get to the homes and do home visits and provide services for these adolescents.
Okay. So how can the SHRH project in particular support in increasing the access to sexual reproductive health services for these young adolescents?
I think they are already doing that, but I need to just echo some of them. The fact that we have these adolescents, to empower them by educating them or enlisting them into these mentorship programs that are already existing, forming peer educators, helping us to build their capacity so they can also share this information there. SBCCs or reproductive health services too is not available in the system. And so if they can share some of this in the community for everyone to be able to pick and read or to even look at it and understand, and also engage gatekeepers like chiefs, queen mothers, opinion leaders in their communities that have a say, and also to help us identify the positive deviants. And by that I mean there are some particular family members that would not go with what the tradition is saying. They would always go with what is going to help their family and their children. So if they are identified and encouraged to become advocates, to also identify champions in the communities that would take the cause of SRH amongst adolescents as key, is going to help a lot.
Madam Dora, can you throw a little light on the SBCC you mentioned?
Okay. By SBCC, I mean social behavior change communication materials. They could be written, they could be pictorial. And you know, with our young ones, they easily pick on some of the pictures available. That educates them, that tells them something that is about themselves.
If you're an adolescent out there and you need any information on your sexual reproductive health, do not hesitate to contact SHRH hotline on 0800 001 122 or any of the numbers on your screen. Thank you. What will prevent you from accessing sexual reproductive health services at any facility? Leave your answers in the comment section. That's a wrap for today's episode on accessing sexual reproductive health services. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, no barrier is too huge. With the right information and solutions will be provided for you. Next week, we'll continue discussions on adolescent reproductive health. Don't forget to tune in, and you've been watching Let's Share. Take care. Bye.